Welcome back to Perry Unlikely. Let's just go ahead and start this off. Watch out for the scammers in the comments. If you see someone that looks like me, because it's my picture, talking about WhatsApp, that is not me. It is a scammer. If you see messages about the greatest trader in the world, once again, those are scammers. And beyond that, please remember that I am not a financial advisor. Before you invest your money, you should seek the help of a professional. In cryptocurrency, you can lose it all. So now that's out of the way, let's first start off with talking about war. Whether it's the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, and I could go on and on. Those are just some wars fought by the U.S. Obviously, they involved others, some of those wars. But involving the U.S., no matter where you're from, doesn't matter what country, the very place that you live now has been involved in war at some point in time. That is what came to shape how you live in some fashion present day. So you're thinking to yourself, why is he talking about war? This is crypto. That is because today we are going to talk about Bitcoin Cash. And you can't talk about Bitcoin Cash. Well, you can, but if you want the history, you shouldn't talk about Bitcoin Cash without mentioning the first ever war over block size. Yep, that's it. Bitcoin Cash was born out of a war over block size. So when they ask that age-old question, does size matter? Well, evidently to some people it does. Now, this was 2017 to set the stage for Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin obviously had been around, and a proposal had been made because at this time, people were really upset about the transaction speed. The proposal for SegWit, that is segregated witness, and that's BIP 141, had been made. What that is a way to get around the issue of Bitcoin's small block size. What this would do is basically separate the transaction into two parts. You have one part with the sender and receiver data, and you have the other part with the signatures and scripts. I like to think of it almost similar to sharding, basically breaking down the transaction so that we get better throughput, if you will. Formerly, what that was called was SegWit. People were not happy about this. I don't know that I would go as far as to say it was split, but we do have Roger Ver, who was an early Bitcoin investor, and he is one of the founders of Bitcoin Cash. In 2017, this war came to a head, and the proposal to do a hard fork of Bitcoin was made. And just to quickly mention about a hard fork, we will start off with a soft fork. SegWit is a soft fork. A simple way of looking at it is developers are on board, and we are going in a new direction, and we will somewhat all move in that direction simultaneously. So there isn't a complete breaking off from the original intended blockchain. When you have a hard fork, we are essentially going scorched earth. We will no longer be a part of that blockchain whatsoever. Once you do a hard fork, there is no turning back. Enters Bitcoin Cash. One fact to make this whole thing even messier is Roger Ver owns Bitcoin.com. That's just messy. To me, that's like a divorce where your ex-wife's boyfriend moves in and then they have to pay you rent. It's just really sloppy. But you know how it is. He has the .com, so there you go. Possession is 9/10 the law. So Bitcoin Cash essentially operates under Bitcoin.com. That is a slap in the face. With Bitcoin Cash, as I alluded to, this was all over block size. People were not happy with Bitcoin's 1 megabyte block size. This was to increase the size of the block to 32 megabytes. Now, understand whenever you do increase block size, there is potential security risk in doing so, but they figured that that risk was well worth it because Bitcoin Cash was really all about becoming that everyday cryptocurrency for transactions and using it around the world. Something of note is still to this day, Bitcoin Cash is not operating at that 32 megabyte block size. To do so, you would have to have a certain number of transactions to need that block size. So currently, that is not the case. Now, what's even more interesting is there is also a hard fork of Bitcoin Cash known as Bitcoin SV. That would be Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, which would make the blocks even larger than Bitcoin Cash. That was led by a man who allegedly says he is the real Satoshi. I could sit here and laugh all night, and while I don't doubt that he had some interactions in the forming of Bitcoin, to say that he's Satoshi Nakamoto himself, well, I'll just move on. So you can see, this is really at this point nothing new. We have Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, we have Ethereum Classic. In the blockchain world, wars are fought all the time. The difference is in the wars over blockchain, they're usually just talking. What actually happens is the community just branches off. But to present day, I have never seen that I can think of off top where a forked project has become bigger than the original. We know that's certainly not the case in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So today, I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time going super in depth about Bitcoin Cash because of the fact it is a spinoff of Bitcoin. I do not spend too much time getting in depth about transactional speed because I simply believe at the end of the day, what you have to ask yourself about Bitcoin Cash is, are people using Bitcoin Cash around the world like it is the dollar? Or are they attempting to? So, do you think that Bitcoin Cash has truly made that breakthrough to being the everyday transactional blockchain? Something else to make note of is, I see many blockchains whose claim to fame is transaction speed. We're going to reach a point in the blockchain space where transaction speed won't really matter anymore, and the reason for that is they will all be super fast. What else are you bringing to the table? And I am not saying in this video that Bitcoin Cash isn't. I'm going to leave that up for you to decide. But I know if I'm comparing the Bitcoins, Bitcoin is supreme. I don't think it's wise to make the comparison of the two, especially if you're on the Bitcoin Cash side, because Bitcoin will never go away. It will be here to stay, though not necessarily reaching that intended goal to be used around the world as a medium of exchange. Bitcoin is still the true trusted cryptocurrency, and it will remain that way. When it comes to all-time highs, if you look on Coinbase, you'll see as high as $4,300, but other sites don't seem to have it at that high. What's interesting is there are articles saying that Bitcoin Cash in December of 2017 hit as high as $8,500. When you look on the sites, different exchanges, you're not going to see that. But there certainly is a shroud of darkness around the price of Bitcoin Cash. But at any rate, historically speaking, it can be said that Bitcoin Cash did hit an intraday high of $4,300 back in December 20th of 2017. And to be a little more specific, that's $4,355. Based off of some research and looking at a bunch of different sites, I tend to believe that number was probably more like under $4,000, maybe between $3,700 and $3,900. So currently at the time of this recording, Bitcoin Cash sits at $924. Its market cap rank is in the 11th spot out of all cryptocurrencies. And as far as the circulating supply, 18.7 million out of a total of 21 million BCH currently in existence. So you saw my thumbnail. Is it Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin trash? Now look, I know how people are about their cryptos. I wouldn't dare call this project trash. It's a functioning blockchain. While they have had their issues, certainly, we have seen some bad projects. I don't believe Bitcoin Cash is one of those. I do believe Bitcoin Cash's issue will always be they are not Bitcoin. I do think, for future reference, if you do fork a project, you call it something else. Don't call it the same name with an extra name added to it. It just doesn't work that well. Let's think about Uniswap, and then we had SushiSwap. That was basically a cut and paste of a code, but SushiSwap's a good project and it seems to be working. If you had to call it Uniswap Gold, no one would want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I actually believe that is BCH's biggest problem. Simply just my opinion. But I believe it does reach its all-time high in the $4,000 range. One thing about BCH that I do know, it does run. Where do I think Bitcoin Cash will end up at price-wise during this bull market cycle? Currently, the market cap is at $17.3 billion. I will say, sitting at the 11th spot, I do not believe Bitcoin Cash will be in the top 10 to round out this cycle. When I think about the cryptocurrencies that are right behind it, with the likes of the Chainlinks of the world, it's got its work cut out for it. That doesn't mean I don't think it will be a good crypto to hold. I currently do not hold any Bitcoin Cash myself. I believe that going from $17.3 billion up to $100 million market cap would be good during this cycle. I do think it can go somewhat past there, but if we do get to that $100 million range, as far as market cap, we would see a 5.78x from where we're at now. That would put the price of Bitcoin Cash above $5,300. I do think Bitcoin Cash during this cycle can end up somewhere between $6,000 per BCH and $8,000 per BCH. Many people, when it comes to these projections, they look at where it's at now and don't understand how far we have to go in this market. And while the time that I predict this market cycle will come to an end will be at the end of this year, in between the last quarter of this year anyway, and the first quarter of next year, when these things really start to run, and you should see that in the next wave of this altcoin season, these things take off to crazy levels, especially at the end of the cycle when it gets parabolic. So there you have it. I believe BCH has a possibility of hitting around $6,000 to $8,000 in this market cycle. If you look back at the previous cycles, top coins, we had 40 billion, 50 billion. 100 billion is still a big figure, but if we're talking about an overall market cap going to 10 trillion, we've got a lot of money still to come in to this market. Let me know your thoughts on Bitcoin Cash. Do you hold it? Tell me in the comments if you do hold Bitcoin Cash, how long you have been holding it. And certainly if you think it's better than Bitcoin, I really want to know why. And what is your prediction on Bitcoin Cash during this bull run? Thanks for tuning in to the content. I appreciate each and every subscriber. If you are not subscribed, you should consider doing so. Make sure to leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. I always appreciate that, and I believe most people will tell you I do my best to get back to answering basically every comment that I can. Hit that like button. It is absolutely free. And hit the bell for notification, and I will see you next time.